Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those books you can still find tucked away in those cheap boxes, those dollar bins, those discount boxes. Whether you're shopping at a flea market, your dollar boxes at your LCS, half-price books, yard sales, wherever you're doing your cheap comic hunting, these are some books you can probably still find and should keep an eye out for when you're digging this week based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, and things going on in the actual comic books. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And yeah, if you want to see this week's selection of books, just hang out for a few seconds after the intro and I will be right back. All right, this might be a short one this week, but I'm trying to get to it a little bit early if I can. And we are going to start off with things going on in the actual comics. First, before we get into the new release books, we did have some news. So, a book that was announced that's coming this February made me think, hey, this is something we can talk about. And this is going to be the upcoming series, Weapon X-Men. So following the huge Doctor Doom event, or I guess during it, we're going to get a new X-Men book that's going to feature some of the more dangerous mutants, all as one Strike Force type of team. We're seeing Cable, Deadpool, Wolverine. You got Thunderbird in there as well as Chamber. Now, before we get to this, this is coming out in February. So we got a couple of months before we're going to get into what the details are based on this series. But for now, we can see that Alex Ross is going to be giving us some covers, at least to start. Now, the one character here that's not like the others that you can probably find their first appearance in a cheap box, because let's be real. You're not finding a Hulk 181 or a Hulk 180 in a dollar bin. Or the first Cable, or the first Deadpool. Hell, even the first Thunderbird is Giant Size X-Men 1. Not dollar bin fodder. But Chamber, on the other hand, is an option we can look at because he's a character that's been around since the 90s that we can probably get down and find in those cheap boxes because he was introduced as part of Generation X. Now, you remember this awesome holofoil, chromium cover, whatever you want to call it, November of 1994. That's him front and center right on the cover as part of that new Generation X of X-Men. So they made tons and tons of these. You know it. I know it. These are still out there in those cheap boxes because, let's face it, they made a lot. So you can still come across these when you're flipping through those discount bins. With that said, if you find it, well, not only do you find the first appearance of Chamber, but you found yourself, well, a book that can go for as cheap as $2.95 to $10. Look, somebody got a whole lot of Generation X books. Well, while it says one bid for $1.83, I bet they accepted an offer and they sold the whole lot. But as you know, if there's a best offer feature and an auction, they will only show one bid. So I didn't dig into it to find out what they paid for it. Point being, this book's a couple of bucks, as you can see here by what's asking. So the asking prices, if you wanted to go buy one of these chromium covers, is $2, $2.32, or maybe $8.50 at a high. But considering that also has free shipping, it's still only a couple of bucks. So it's a very, very cheap book, but a book that you can find out there nonetheless. Now, if you want to go beyond just looking for the first appearance of Chamber, the other option I would throw out to you that I think is kind of interesting is he did actually have a miniseries. There's 4-issue miniseries that came out in 2002. This Icons, under the Icons moniker. I believe they also did some others. I think Rogue had one. I think Nightcrawler had one too. But Chamber, this character you wouldn't think of would have gotten his own mini, but he did. Brian K. Vaughan writing this. Pretty cool. I think it's Chris Bacalo on this cover as well. August 2002. It's 4-issue series. You can probably find the whole lot of them out there if you go dig into those boxes. And again, they're very, very cheap books. You can see here, somebody bought the whole set for 99 cents. Or you can buy the individual cover for like $2 and change. On the market, if you wanted to buy one, my comic shop still has copies for $2 and change if you want one. Or you can buy all 4 issues together for all of $8. Is a starting bid. So again, not an expensive set, not an expensive series, but something you might want to pick up and, could be worth a read there. A lot of oddball X characters show up throughout this miniseries, so it is kind of interesting. But again, this is the character that kind of stands out as one that you might be able to go and dig for ahead of that Weapon X-Men series. Because like I said, the other guys are big guns and their first are already expensive. So go dig for your first chamber while you're out there. Now, another book. Well, actually, I shouldn't say another book. Now we are getting into the new release books. So sticking with Marvel, we are going to go with a new release book this week. And this is Avengers Assemble #3. Interesting that there is a spoiler cover or a classified cover on this issue, so you might want to look for that one as well. This is the cover A that I'm sharing here, but basically the spoiler is, and I'm sorry I'm going to spoil it here, is that we are getting a new version of the Night Stalkers inside the guts of this book. So following the events of Blood Hunt, there are vampires still out there, especially daywalking vampires these days. Here's a whole squad of vampire hunters that are also vampires of themselves in a lot of cases. So this is the new crew of Night Stalkers here being introduced inside this book. And the cover, that's a classified cover, is of this new team. Now, a few of these characters are brand new. So these would be their first appearance. We're talking about this character Coma here, and this Abby Morris and Voracious. I believe those are new vampire type characters being introduced in this issue here, and this would be their first. Even a character going back to Frank Drake. He is a character that's been around a while. He goes back to Tomb of Dracula 1. So you're probably not finding his first in the dollar bin because it's Tomb of Dracula 1. But he was with the original Night Stalkers crew, and that's another book you want to keep an eye out for. That could be kind of fun. I think I was going to put it in here, but then I decided against it. But just the regular Night Stalkers crew from the Midnight Suns time frame had Frank Drake in it, along with like Blade and a couple of the other characters of the time, Ghost Rider, etc. Pretty fun. Anyway, or I should say what were those? The other three, the dudes who were in Blade 2. Hannibal King and whatnot, they were in there. Anyway, Night Stalkers. I was just thinking Midnight Suns as a whole had Ghost Rider and Blade in there, but the Night Stalkers was a different group. Anyway, getting lost in the weeds. Gonna get back on track. The character of this group that kind of stands out is right down front and center. This ponytail wearing, sunglassed, pop collar, Bloodscream. Yes, Bloodscream is the character we're going to pull out because this is a book you might be able to go and dig for. So, Bloodscream is here. Was not originally called Bloodscream. They changed his name. Originally, he was named Bloodsport. And no, I do not mean the awesome Jean-Claude Van Damme Kumite movie from the 80s, but this character was called Bloodsport. I don't know if that's why they had to change his name from Bloodsport to Bloodscream, but they did end up changing his name to Bloodscream. But it is this long ponytail wearing sunglass vampire from back in the day. He first appeared right here on the cover of Wolverine #4 from the ongoing series from 1988. I think it was the right year. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There it is. October 1988. So with that new Wolverine ongoing series, by the 4th issue, we were introduced to both Roughhouse and Bloodsport, who eventually becomes Bloodscream. And yes, despite the fact that he's right there on the cover, inside the book, I'll show you that he's in there too, obviously. So it is his first full appearance, whatever you want to call it. No debate. This is his first. So you could find this book out there, and it does well sometimes. I mean, because it is an early Wolverine issue in and of itself, apart from being a first appearance of a couple of characters. Granted, you can also find cheap copies. So you can see copies sometimes sell for $1.30, $1.39, or $17.50. So pretty wide range. Depending on condition, etc., timing is going to play a lot into that when you're buying online. But I'm not telling you to buy online. I'm telling you to go dig in boxes. So dig in boxes, find it for cheap, and maybe you find something good. Meanwhile, you can find cheap copies even available online. Looks, people asking $6, $5.50. It's not a pricey first, but it's one that maybe you can get a $20 copy of it out there, or maybe you find just the dollar bin version. Hey, that's the whole point. Stuff for you to go and dig for fun, and just kind of a little bit of a scavenger hunt tying into some of the things going on in the comics today, if you will. And like I said, I was going to put in the Night Stalker run, but then I forgot. So check out that original Night Stalker run from the Midnight Suns days. With that said, another new Marvel release that we're going to cover today is Phoenix #5. So new this week, new issue of Phoenix. I still don't know why we have an ongoing or a solo Phoenix series, but here we go. We got another one. And I guess it kind of makes sense. I mean, eventually she's going to run out of like characters on her power level. This is, I think, part of the reason why like characters like Silver Surfer have trouble sometimes is they run out of characters that meet their power level. I mean, you can't have Phoenix going up against your standard, bank robber or dollar store criminal or whatever. Like she's got to be facing more epic omni level powered present events. So or characters that are Norse gods or Norse villains or whatever you want to call it, as is our case here. So with Phoenix number 5, right there on the cover, you can, so like I said, on the cover, the character is Pericus, if that's how you say it. Yeah, he's right there. So he's inside the guts of the book. He's going to face off against Jean in the guts of the book. But this is a character that goes back not too far. Not too far. This only goes back to the 90s. May of 1998, we get introduced to Pericus, first teased in the Mighty Thor #1, this collector's issue for Heroes Return. Yeah, there's a couple of covers on this one. I'm just giving you the one. But yeah, he's only teased here. You don't actually get to see the character. You just get his voice and some shadow, etc. So this is the tease for Pericus coming right here. So boom, Thor #1 is where you're going to get that. Now, also, this is still a very cheap book. You can find this thing out there. Look, there's both covers. They're $5 to $6. Copies available as cheap as $2, $3, $4. It's not a pricey one. Granted, it is just a tease, but it is a new #1 for Thor, so that also has some interest there. But if you really want to get into it, you got to go into the next book, which is the 4th issue. That's right. He didn't pop up in the next issue. You had to wait 2 more before he showed up. And it's issue 4, which we're side by side with Namor, the Submariner. But in issue 4, we finally get introduced and get to see this Pericus character. So boom, right there, right at the outset of this book. You open it up, you get right into there, right after like the splash pages, etc. So there he is in all his looking like a destroyer glory. Yeah, he just kind of looks like a destroyer. I mean, kind of has that kind of classic Kirby look to him, but yeah, there he is, Pericus. Cool. Anyway, this book, you could find this one also for very, very cheap. It's not an expensive book. I did manage to find one sold for $2.75, and then copies available for $2.50 to $4. Again, not an expensive first, but a first you could find nonetheless that ties into the character that's hopping out there right now in the books and the pages. I don't know of the future of Pericus. We're probably never going to see him in an MCU movie, but hey, again, this doesn't all have to be about that. Comics could just be fun. Now, for those of you out there who have yet to try Whatnot, now's your chance. Use my link below. Sign up. Get yourselves a free $15 for your first purchase to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. No strings attached. You help out the channel. You get yourself something nice. So if you haven't tried Whatnot yet, give it a try and get yourself some free money because really, you got nothing to lose. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to go over to the DC side of things to see what we got there this week. And with this week, we have a new Milestone book. That's right. The Milestone Universe continues with the Shadow Cabinet, #1, issue 1 of 4. New mini starting up, new this week. And right there on the cover, we could focus in on the character I want to talk about first. And that's Rocket. So right here, going back in the day, let's talk about Rocket. Now, she's kind of been already brought back into the new version of the M universe, the Dakotaverse, if you will, like the restart that happened over the last couple of years. But if you want to find her first appearance, you got to go back to that original run. The original run and the original Icon #1. So May 1993, first issue collector's item. You can sometimes find this still polybagged out there. She's got you right here. So there's Rocket with Icon, tag teaming it up. And even though she's on the cover, I can show you inside. She's also in the story here as well, because she is part of the dynamic duo, if you will, and part of this squad. So anyway, Icon #1 is one of those Milestone books you can still find out there. Look, copies even online could sell for $1 here, or a best offer on $3.50. Meanwhile, they could also sell for $10 because there are collectors looking for some of these things. And then available copies have that same kind of range. There could be $5 copies open. $5 copy still in the poly bag. Meanwhile, you got copies that are going closer to $15. A little all over the place, but hey, it's kind of fun. And yes, the Milestone books, There are a decent amount of them printed because it was pretty popular at the time. It's been so long since I've read these books. I don't remember a whole heck of a lot, but I do remember liking them from back in the day. They were kind of cool. They were different, like their own little universe altogether. But I also liked it back then. Back in the day, we had all kinds of new universes starting up. You got to read, apart from your Marvel and your DC, you got your Milestone little corner. You had Valiant had their own universe, which was kind of fun. You had the Malibu verse if you wanted to go there. There was all kinds of new startup companies and whatnot back then that it was kind of a fun time to collect and read. But plenty of books were printed, as we all know. Anyway, with that all said, outside of Rocket and Icon there, we also can look inside this book and see that another character is kind of come into play, and she's more of a villain, if you will, and that's this Iron Butterfly character. Who will go here and show you just a little bit more of. I think that was her from the Guts. I could be wrong and pointing out the wrong character, but Iron Butterfly is in this book. She's also on one of the variant covers. But if you want Iron Butterfly, her first appearance was in a different Dakotaverse book, and that was Hardware. Remember the one with all the kind of teched out characters? So Hardware number 11, part of the Shadow War storyline, was her first appearance back in November of 1993. And inside the guts of that book, you get her introduced to her right here to near the tail end, all armored up. I am Iron Butterfly. Cool name, cool look, cool character. That said, this book kind of you can find them if you go looking online. You're finding copies for $6. It's up to 15, and then copies available. Just as well big of a discrepancy. As cheap as $4 or as expensive as $15 to $25. I don't know. Pick your poison. Or just go dig in a box, like I'm telling you, and maybe you find one for fun and find one for very, very cheap. So go look. Plus, this is a pretty cool Simonson cover there on that Hardware number 11. So first appearance there in this book. However, if you are a fan of previews, I know some of you are. Actually, the month before, there was a Shadow War preview book that kind of gave you a little bit of a tease of all the upcoming titles and a part of the Shadow War universe. And she does pop up inside the guts of this preview book that came out in October of 93. So the month before, if you like preview books, she's inside this preview book as well. So this could technically be called her true first appearance, to coin my buddy Topher's name. True first in this one, and then she shows up in the regular issue when it's released. But this thing is out there. You can find them. Go dig for them. The preview of the Shadow War, $30 a copy sold for. Wow, $40. Meanwhile, copies available are only like 10 to 15 in a lot of cases. So that outlier sale could have been for a very, very nice copy. Maybe I don't know, but there it is. Copy sold. Only one I could find, and there's copies available. Now, with that said, any of you out there who need to get yourselves more protection for your collectibles, if you're going to buy from BCW like I do, get your bags, your boards, your boxes, top loaders, all the different cases and binders and card pages, all that stuff, things to keep your collectibles together and keep them safe. Use the link, use my code RENA10 to save yourselves 10% off your entire order. Because why not save money to buy those things you got to do anyway? It's not fun to buy bags and boards. It's not fun. But we all got to do it, right? So when you do, you might as well save money while you do. So keep that link, keep that code handy, save yourself 10% off. RENA10. Now, moving on to our final book, I believe, of the day. We're going to go on to movies, movie section. So Penguin's over, so no more Penguin news, no more Penguin TV. We'll see what else comes out on our streaming and televisions for me to cover. But for now, movie news, we have a rumor that Marvel is planning to introduce the West Coast Avengers into the MCU. Makes a little bit of sense considering some of the characters are already out there. I mean, we know Vision and Vision Quest is coming out soon. That's the culprit that's being pointed to as the start of this potential West Coast Avengers team. We've got characters that could easily join up, with Wonder Man getting his own show coming soon as well. Will that mean that we're going to get, Scarlet Witch joining and Jessica Carpenter and even Darkhawk like shown here? Well, who knows? But some of the characters could return, could be introduced, and could wind up as part of this squad. Now, it's all rumor. It's all speculation. So take that with a grain of salt. But if you wanted to go and dig out there for that first appearance of the West Coast Avengers, it's not hidden in some random Avengers book like I thought. No, the team actually wasn't introduced as the team until their own 4-issue limited miniseries. And I know you've seen these out there because I've come across these tons and tons. This is the 4-issue mini before the ongoing starts a few months after. So, West Coast Avengers #1, May 1984. You could find these out there. These are still out there. They're still cheap. And, this will get a pop if this rumor turns out to be true. So go dig in, go find one or two for fun and stash them in a box, as you never know. Because while right now copies could sell for like $10 or the entire miniseries can sell for $12, copies available $10 to $20. As soon as this thing is announced, or if it's announced, this will probably pop and be double or triple that price before long, because that's what the market does, right? So I'm just telling you, for fun, go digging in those boxes. I know you've come across this issue before, even to get the ongoing #1 if you can find it. Get the whole 4-issue mini, and it'll be worth your time. Now, with that all said, that's all I got for you this week. So thanks for stopping by and checking this out. Sorry, I did this one a little bit early because I was trying to do something a little bit different, because I still want to be able to do spoilers on Thursday, and I'm trying to find a place for Dollar Bin Digging, so I might have to do these as a double dip on Thursday. I don't know. I'm still trying to work out the details on doing all the shows I want to do here on the channel, because I was trying to move this over to Tuesdays, but then I already did a Chasing Ghosts for this week anyway, and then, I don't know. I'm figuring out the schedule as I go, but plenty more content, plenty more ideas of shows and content that I want to provide for all of you out there. Still up here in my dome, but I will get it out to you as soon as I can. And with that all said, I'll see you all soon with some more content. All right? Later.